Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Junkies Podcast. This week, I'm on location at the Plumbers and Pipefitters Local 803 with Ronnie Bowen and Jason Strickland. In this episode, we discuss another possible path for folks looking to get into the skilled trades. A lot of people say just get on the job site and fake it till you make it. And that's often bad advice. I tell people, go get some training if you want to make this a career. The problem with faking it till you make it is that you're usually relying on someone who's faked it their whole career, and they're just going to teach you the wrong way to get things done. One way to learn the right way to do things is to go to a trade school and learn. Another option is to find an apprenticeship in the trade that you want to work in. Apprenticeships are a great option because you can work in the industry while attending school. This way you can earn a paycheck while you're learning the job. We'll get right into the episode after a quick word from our supporters. Today's episode of the Junkies Podcast is brought to you by CK Worldwide, the seasoned veterans in TIG welding since 1967. CK Worldwide has been honing their craft and delivering top-notch torches, parts, and accessories for decades, longer than most of us have been alive. If you haven't experienced the CK Flex Lock torch yet, you're in for a treat. Imagine a torch with a head that can rotate a full 360 degrees. Talk about versatility. Whether you prefer gas or water-cooled models, CK's got you covered. And let's not forget about their SuperFlex cables offering unparalleled flexibility and durability, ensuring you can tackle any project with ease. But that's not all. CK Worldwide continues to innovate with products like their Gas Saver kits featuring glass nozzles for improved gas flow coverage, and visibility while saving on gas consumption. Plus, their latest MT375 AC/DC welding machine comes complete with a water cooler and cart for ultimate convenience. When it comes to TIG welding, CK Worldwide sets the standard. We're also brought to you by Outlaw Leather. Are you in search of premium leather welding gear and accessories? Look no further than Outlaw Leather. Outlaw specializes in crafting custom leather welding hoods, arm pads, bolt bags, sleever bar holders, tool belts, and a wide range of custom welding accessories. Each piece is handcrafted with precision and designed to withstand the toughest conditions. But that's not all. Outlaw Leather also stocks essential PPE for welding, ensuring you stay safe on the job. Plus, they offer a selection of quality hand tools you can trust. Visit outlawleather.com today to explore their extensive range of products. Whether you're a professional welder or a DIY enthusiast, Outlaw has you covered. And the best part is, as a listener to the Junkies Podcast, you can save 15% off on all in-stock leather goods when you use code word ARCJunkies in the discount box at checkout. Outlaw Leather is your trusted source for custom leather welding gear, PPE, and quality hand tools. Elevate your welding game today with Outlaw Leather. All right, you know what time it is. Fire up your machine, drop your hood, and turn me up 5.
Thank you for downloading show number 315 of the Junkies Podcast.
You're listening to the Junkies Podcast, helping you make every weld better than your last with each episode. And now your host, Jason Becker.
All right, so I'm over here at 803 Plumbers and Pipefitters Union, right in beautiful, sunny Orlando, Florida. I'm here with Jason Strickland. You're the business manager?
Business agent for now.
Business agent. Okay, and then Ronnie, you're a...
I'm a
you're
building,
a hand.
Yeah, building trades, journeyman pipe fitter.
Okay, you've been on the podcast before. We've chatted quite a bit.
Yes, we have.
How you been since the last time you were on the BuzzBox?
Been good, been busy, been making a lot of money and, working a lot of hours, but I'm here.
That's always a plus. I mean, that's the goal, right?
It is, and it isn't. Time is money, and that means it takes a lot of time and to make money.
Yeah. Now you were at the Cape earlier today. What were you doing out there?
I was. So we're building one of their new ICO buildings and running their chill water systems, condenser piping, doing all the underground right now, pre-insulated pipe, all 60-10, 70-18, and it's nice. And it's a nice time of the year. Got a little breeze going. Got the pipeliners cloud up, a speaker going, so as long as safety stays away, we're doing pretty good.
How long is that job going to last?
Well, they told me I'm only going to be out there for 2 weeks, but the last time they said that, I was out there for 2 years.
Oh, there you go. That's usually, I was going to say, it's nice now, but, like we're in summer junior, so once July hits.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's summer in Florida. That's a whole nother animal.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's hard to make 8 hours out there. in the summertime.
I bet.
The sun and then the storms roll in the afternoons. And
Oh yeah,
just
it's like
blow you out.
especially like June, like 3 o'clock. You could almost set your watch to it, man. It's gonna rain. How much it usually varies, but yeah, by 3:30, it's gonna rain.
No, yeah. If you grew up in Florida, you can smell it.
Oh yeah,
You can smell the rain coming.
you can smell
I
it
promise
literally.
you.
Have you ever watched it roll in?
Oh yeah.
I've been up on top of buildings and be like, oh man, we got a storm rolling in, and like you just start packing stuff up because you know it's gonna hit.
Yeah, you can honestly see the evaporation throughout the day. Like you can see it coming from the ground. It sounds crazy, but you can see it filling the clouds up, and you know, yep, it's gonna rain.
Yeah, every single day. Now, Jason, what do you do over here at the at 803?
So basically what I am is I'm the business agent. And so what my job is to assist folks like Ronnie, when they come in and they're looking for work, we're involved in a big co-op of other locals and such. And so what we do is when, say, Ronnie comes in and he's like, hey man, this job's coming to an end, I'm looking for something new, then it's my job to reach out and try to, with all the connections that I have, and try to find either a new contractor in town, or if folks want to go out of town, I try to facilitate that, just whatever folks end up needing, that's what I usually try to do. That's what my job is right now.
Okay, so when you say out of town, like how far are you, like some of your guys going out?
Well, I got some guys in Arizona right now in Intel, and they're doing really well because that's that plant that's blowing up, that computer chip plant. But and I just got a guy out in Oregon. So, there's a place that's called The Dolls. Apparently, I was educated on that because when I called the agent, they were like, I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to get a guy in The Dolls. And they're like, no, The Dolls. And I'm like, okay. But whatever it takes to get my guy out. So, so basically all over the U.S., I've had some folks call me from Canada that want to come here, but I've never sent anybody to Canada. But there is a bunch of locals in Canada as well, and contractors and stuff. But the big areas right now is out west, and then supposedly up in just north of Sacramento, there's supposed to be another big chip plant that's supposed to be bigger than the one in Intel.
Oh, really?
In Arizona, yeah.
Okay.
Because the one in Arizona is supposed to cap out at 5,000 fitters and welders, and the one in the north in like New York, it's supposed to cap out at like 6,000.
Yeah, I've heard Arizona right now is going crazy, and then Tennessee, believe it or not, like right outside of I think Knoxville.
Yeah, there's
a lot of chip plants are coming in, the battery plants and all that stuff. Like my dad's up there right now flying a crane. He's working on a project called Blue Oval, and I guess it's a big recycling center for Ford Motor Company, and they're going to recycle batteries and all that. And it's like over 1 million square feet.
Jeez.
He's going to be up there just swinging panels for the next 2 years.
That's one of those mega projects, right?
Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the amount of people on those projects and the amount of stuff that gets out. What's weird is how when you go to get people out on these jobs, like how their wage rates and stuff, they control whether they get people by, like, per diem is a big one.
Oh, that's huge.
You start offering per diem and you go to 6 days. Now you went from 5 people trying to get on your job to 125 people trying to get on your job. So like, it's funny how they play the numbers, and you can tell when these plants, when they really start to kick it into high gear, and how they change those things around.
They start playing with the money.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
and they start bringing people in. But I mean, that also causes a lot of headaches too, because you're like, okay, we're getting 5 to 6 applicants a day, and now all of a sudden we're getting 30, 40, maybe 100. Now we got to process all these people in, and who can actually, figure out who can actually weld and who can just talk about it. And that's the biggest thing. I did an episode a couple weeks ago on welding certifications. Now, when your guys and gals, when they go out to these different plants and facilities and stuff like that outside of Florida, do they have to go through a whole other testing process, or are their certs transferable? They just walk in and show their card, or I mean, how's that work?
Some of them are transferable. Some of the locals will, and some of the contractors will, because through the UA, the United Association that we're in a member of, they actually have a whole bunch of weld standards, and a lot of the contractors use those. And what happens is a lot of our contractors will take them, and then some of them will tell you that that'll get you the job as a welder, but then they're still going to x-ray like your first one on the job site or something. So what we tend to do here is before I send my guys out on the road, I'll try to find out what those certs are, if they are, and then we'll test them at our facility and get them guys tested ahead of time. So when they get there, they know that they're getting the people that can do what they need them.
So they actually get to come in here and practice before they, because that's the biggest part about life on the road is you go from one job to the next. And if you bust out, you don't have time to practice before you get there. You clock out one day and you show up in another place at another, on your own dime, and you're like, oh, damn, you bust out on the route.
Right.
You don't have time to practice because you're going from A to B, but here you actually get a chance to practice the exact test you're going to be taking once you get there.
Yeah, because we actually bring them in, and as a matter of fact, right now our welding class is going on downstairs, and what we can do is there's two options. Either the welders can come in during the day, like if they're not working, we'll open up our shop to them and let them, like you got free run of it as long as you clean it up. But then if you actually need some pointers and some help, our instructors come in they're here on Mondays and Wednesdays in the evenings. Okay. And you can come in, and as long as there's an open booth, and you can get some pointers from somebody who knows what's going on, what's up.
Okay. So, Is Val downstairs right now?
No, Val's not downstairs. He's drug up from being a teacher.
Drug up? Oh,
yeah.
That's the guy that taught me how to weld. Val's, Lead Belly Metal Works. Shout out,
yeah,
Lead Belly Metal Works.
Follow him.
Oh, yeah.
He's a good dude. I got the blacksmithing with him a couple weeks ago.
Okay, yeah.
Might have been a month. Yeah, month or two. Yeah.
No, Steven Phillips is down there. He's our new welding instructor, and he turned out the same time I did. He's real talented, real good at welding, real knowledgeable, and he's younger, so he's my age. But I say younger because most guys in the trades are 40, pushing 50. Mm-hmm. That's one big problem that we have in the trade is a lot of people are retiring and not enough young people are coming in.
Yeah.
But so I think it's really important for the young people that are coming in that they have a teacher that they can relate to. Mm-hmm. So Steven being 30 years old, I think he is, with his students coming in, there's not a big age gap. You know what I mean? So he can still relate to TikTok videos and stuff like that. And so for me, if I had a teacher that was closer in my age, I feel like I get along with them more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can relate.
Even though the old timers are great, I love being around old timers. They'll teach you the tricks. But having a teacher that like we have, Steven Phillips, I think with the age and the knowledge he has, it's a perfect setup.
Yeah, and to touch on what Ronnie's saying is that's something that I've found because I'm also an instructor here. I teach a pipe fitting class, but the one thing that we're running into is a lot of people are saying these younger people, you can't train them, they don't listen, they're lazy, blah, blah, blah. But what we're really finding is that it's somebody like me that's trying to explain things to them, and I'm not on their level.
Yeah.
I don't know how to communicate with them. And, like what Ronnie's saying is these younger folks that are starting to get to these levels to where, the young folks are looking up to somebody that looks like them and that talks like them and can communicate with them on a whole different level. That's causing our people to excel way more because like when I tell them something, they don't get it. But like Ronnie goes down there and says something or Steven says something to them, and next thing you know, they're doing it. And
they can speak that millennial language.
Right.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean they're lazy. It's just you have to know how to communicate with them. And I'm doing my best, but it's difficult for me. And so that's what's really nice. And that's what we're seeing the biggest takeoff with right now is bringing in new instructors and trying to keep that blood fresh in order to keep those people, learning and on that right track, and so, it seems like it's really working out.
Yeah. Now, Jason, you're the business agent. We already kind of talked about what you do here, but you didn't start off as a business agent. You didn't come from management background. Like you started just like everybody else does.
Yeah. What's funny is funny story.
I'm excited to hear this.
So I got my start off the back of a pack of cigarettes. My name was
brilliant
written,
marketing right there.
Was written on so my stepdad was he was a welder out at Stanton Power Plant, and I had just flunked out of college because I thought that would be after I got out of the Marine Corps. I thought, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to go to college and whatever. Nope, that didn't work. So he's like, I can get you a job. So I go down and get the application, go in, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, the guy's interviewing me, and I was only 19 years old, and I didn't know nothing about nothing. And he says, what was your name again, kid? And I told him, and he goes, digs out this thing out of his pocket, and he's got my name on the back of a cigarette thing. And he goes, all right, you're all right, kid. Go take your drug test. And so then I go out to work at the power plant, and while I'm out there, I worked with some union hands and they took care of me, and they were really nice to me, and they were some really smart guys. And what they did was they told me about the apprenticeship. And so I went and put in an application. I didn't even know what I was doing. They just told me, they said, kid, go down there and do this.
Go down there and fill it out, keep your mouth shut and your head down.
To Local 803.
Yeah. And so I filled out the application, and I sat through my interview, and they accepted me. And, and I went through the program. And the nice thing about the program is I got some of my best experiences in life, because I made some really cool friends, people that helped me move. I helped them move. I seen their kids being born, and, in the whole 9 yards. And then, after I went through apprenticeship program, I was fortunate enough to work for a contractor the whole time, all the way through, and the same contractor. And I worked in the field as a working hand for 4 or 5 years. And then they put me on a truck, and then I ran a crew for 5 or 6, 7 years. And then I became a superintendent, and so the rest is history, but it was a really good experience. And I tell you, I think that is one of the things that's lost. And, not to try to, make this a union commercial or nothing like that, but the one thing that we have going for us is that we build some relationships with folks, and they help you get through the hard times. And like, I've had people that I've had to reach out to when I was on the job and I didn't know how to do something. I could call fellow members they weren't even working for a contractor that was, whatever, but like, they would help you out, and, that kind of thing. And if you needed support, you had friends, or if you lost a job and you needed somebody to help you try to get another one, it was just that's what I think is like the real whole deal of it.
Yeah. But I think that's cool, because when I was a welding instructor and I was teaching, I would call up different companies, and usually I get a hold of like their version of, the business agent, and be like, okay, what kind of processes are you running? Like, what type of materials are you welding on? Like, I'd try to get some of the, give me some information about what you're needing from the students. And they had no idea, so but when you call down to the hall and you're like, hey, what are you looking for? Oh yeah, they need to be able to do this, and this, boom. Okay, done. They don't, it's like talking to somebody from HR. Like, HR doesn't understand what a 6G monster coupon is. They don't know 3G, 4G, like they don't know any of this stuff. No. So it's like, let me talk to your shop foreman, but because everybody here, or, with these different unions, they start off as an apprentice. They go through the entire process. Right. They don't hire somebody and be like, oh yeah, we're looking, for an apprenticeship coordinator or the business agent or any of that. It's promoted from within. So you kind of have to climb the ladder as you're going up.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing. And I tell you, nothing is more rewarding than when you turn around and you look at guys like Ronnie, and there's some of the others that, you're like, you don't start to realize it until you get a little bit older. You're like, man, I had a hand in his success, and that's like a really cool feeling to know that you not only did you impact somebody's future, but like you got to see them grow. And it's a really cool thing that you just, until you experience it, a couple years ago, I had an apprentice that came up to me. Well, he wasn't an apprentice at the time, but he was one of my apprentices. And he told me, and I was trying not to let a little tear out, because he came up to me and he told me, he said, man, I'd like to thank you. He says, you impacted my career more than anybody I've ever met. And I was like, and you just try to be cool, you're like, yeah, thanks, man. But you go home and you're like, it hit you, because you changed somebody's life, because where I came from, I'm making more than my parents ever made. And then I got more than they ever had. And because they always worried about money, and not that I don't have money problems just like everybody else, but I mean, I got a lot more, and it's just a really cool feeling, when you can give that to somebody else.
Yeah, 100%, man. And don't let this guy humble you, man. Jason was the guy. Well, we're working on a job, and he shows up. It kind of doesn't put everybody at ease, but you have a new level of confidence because he knows what's going on. And the way that he portrays himself is, we got this. It's going to be all right. You know what I mean? And when you're around people like that teach you how to get through stressful situations, it kind of sheds onto you, and then now that he's not in it no more, I feel like I can treat my guys with that same type of confidence. And when you have that confidence level, it gives your crew even more confidence, one, in you, but also in themselves. You know, like, okay, guys, we can do this. You know, and that's a big thing. It's not a lot of people can teach that, man. I don't know a lot of guys that have taught me how to get through a stressful situation other than, you know, how to do the job. You know, and then that's a big thing that I learned from Jason was how to be a leader, how to, you know, delegate, and how to, you know, when the pressure's on, how to still get the job done. You know what I mean? And that's a big thing. But I feel like coming up through the apprenticeship and being a part of a union, we have some type of brotherhood. You know, and like Jason was saying, if I need help on something that I have no idea of, I can call other members that they're not even on the same job as me. They might be working somewhere else, or they might be retired, but I have those points of connections because of the hall.
Yeah, you got those contacts to be able to walk you through it.
Exactly. You know, that's a huge advantage opposed to, you know, not being in the hall or not being part of the union. So I definitely
It's a big advantage too, safety wise, because you got to think about it too like this. If I know Ronnie, if he's got a wife and his kids, and I know, and I've seen him grow up, it's so much easier for me to go over to Ronnie and say, hey man, you're doing something a little off. Maybe you ought to change what you're doing. You might get hurt. It's a little bit easier conversation than to have than, you know, some of these jobs, you know, they make the guys on the job feel like they're competing against each other, you know, and like it's a race. And the thing is, yeah, it's a race, but we're all in it and we all got to finish it. You know, everybody's got to go home.
It's a relay race. Everybody's doing their part, you know, passing it off to the next person.
Yeah.
But that's what doesn't happen sometimes is, you know, they put them against each other, and you'll see, like I've seen it on job sites where they'll laugh at people that are breaking the safety rule and going to hurt themselves. And they're like, man, I'm like, how can you not say anything?
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. That's the one thing that I liked about going through my apprenticeship was the safety aspect of it. And not at the time, because like I wasn't a big safety-minded individual when I was coming up through the ranks doing iron work. And it was like, I don't need a harness, you know, I don't need safety glasses, I don't need a guard on the grinder, like I don't need any of this stuff. But once you start going through it and you understand, you know, especially like you said, you're working around other people that you kind of develop this relationship with, this rapport. You know them, you know their families and stuff like that. Last thing you want to see is your buddy next to you catch a cutoff wheel to the face.
Right.
You know, so you start enforcing that, and then everybody else starts kind of enforcing the safety protocol because it makes everybody's lives better. But that was the one thing that I really did appreciate about going through, because I did my OSHA 10, I did my OSHA 30, I had additional, you know, we did fall protection training for the Cape. You know, you got to go through all that stuff.
Right.
We had Hilti training. I mean, just for setting concrete anchors and running powder actuated fasteners and all that stuff. So, I mean, like, I think that's the best part is the training that you actually have to go through. And it's mandatory. You can't just get it signed off. I came in with a bunch of experience. Some of it I was able to transfer in, but some of it I wasn't. You know, and then I had, even at that, the stuff that I brought in, I had to be able to prove myself. They're like, oh, okay, you can weld? Mm-hmm. Let's go. Let's go down to let's go out to the shop and like you show me you can do it.
Of course.
You know, because what you've got written on your resume and what you can actually do with your hands they're two separate things. I'm sure you guys have found that out.
Oh yeah, 100%. But like you were saying, you know, when you show up to a job, being part of the union, you run into other members that aren't part of Local 802. They're part of other locals, but it's that same brotherhood still. You still look out for each other, and it's like, I mean, it's not to say that, you know, the union workers are separate from the contractor, but they are. You know what I mean? So that's a big benefit. The safety is just the brotherhood. We look out for each other. You know what I mean? And we all want to go back home to our families, and we all want to make good money too. So, you know, like you said, all the training that we offer, it's all, you know.
Well, you know, it just goes back to the thing where like you're your brother's keeper.
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
So you try to look out for, you know, the fellow guy on the job site. You know, you try to develop that mindset, you know, that you're not an individual. You know, you're out there,
right.
You're representing more than just yourself. So.
Yeah, when I hear people like, you know, Johnny or Lucky talk about what they do on their jobs, and they tell me, you know, some of the stuff they do, and, oh, man, people don't look out for you, this and that, or F this, F that. I'm like, dang, dude, like that's stuff that you guys got to deal with. And that's real world. That's a lot of people got to deal with that. A lot of non-union people got to deal with that. And, you know, that's just part of it, you know, but it's when you hear other sides of it, you're like, man, I feel kind of blessed to be around guys that actually care about me and care about the job. And it's a whole different, you know, aura of a working environment, you know, no matter where you go.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, what type of work are you guys as plumbers and pipe fitters what type of work do you do? Like, what's an average day look like? I mean, and I understand it's going to vary quite a bit from one day to the next, what job you're on, but I mean, what's the meat and potatoes of what you all do?
Well, so here locally, what ends up happening, like for the stuff that I would do, is we did a lot of unit change-outs, air handlers, chillers, stuff like that. Some of them are on roofs, some of them are here down on the ground, but a lot of change-outs. So what you do is chiller change-out, typical how it goes. You show up a week or so before. Usually what we try to do is, because those pieces of equipment, when they're down, no air conditioning. So they want that to happen as quickly as possible. So folks like myself and Ronnie will come in, we'll pre-measure stuff, we'll lay things out, we'll try to prefabricate as much stuff as we can. And then once we prefabricate that stuff, then we'll set up a crane date and then come in, jerk the piece of equipment off the roof, put a new one on there, and then hopefully fabrication fits.
Hopefully the math was right.
Yeah, hopefully the math is right. And then, and you look like a superstar, because then, literally hours later, everything's up and running, and people never even know. So a lot of times we do that on Saturdays and Sundays. So we'll come in, we'll rip units out, put them back in and then people in the building will never even know anything happened. That's a real typical day.
So that's like the ideal situation, is to be able to rip the AC out on one day and have it up and running, by the end of the weekend.
Yeah.
Really any piece of equipment. I mean, we do boilers, cooling towers. I mean, anything, DI water, osmosis, ozone, all that stuff. And, we do it in a way to where it operates like, okay, we're going to lay it out. Like Jason said, we're going to lay it out. We're going to rip it out. We're going to put the new one in. We're going to turn it back on. And that, outage that we have, there's a lot of pressure, but the way we're trained and everything, we get it done and we get it done safely. I mean, it doesn't always work out 100%. But, I'd say 9 times out of 10 it does. And we also do new construction. We do a lot of new construction and, but I'd say mostly industrial, commercial work.
Yeah. Well, what's really funny is you kind of develop the firefighter mentality doing what we do, because everywhere we go, everything's an emergency. Like everybody's like, we got to have this done right now. And what's really weird is they look at us and they're like, are you not going to get excited?
Why aren't you freaking out?
Right. And my first question is, would you want me if I was freaking out? Like if I'm running around freaking out, you better worry. But because it takes a lot.
Then we got some serious problems.
Right.
Yeah. If the contractor you hire shows up and he's freaking out and pulling out his hair and he's like, how are we going to get this done? That's not the contractor you want on the site.
Hey, no lie. So talking about shutting stuff down, we had Hollywood Studios shut down at Disney. We cut out some 24-inch condenser water. It was one of the first major jobs that I ever ran as a foreman. And we got this piece of 24-inch cut out, and the whole plant is shut down. And so if this plant's not running, Hollywood Studios doesn't open the next day. And at 7:00 in the morning, the head engineer shows up, and we're still messing with this piece of pipe. And he's looking at me, and I'm standing there, and I mean, I am just I'm beside myself, because I'm like, this is it. This is where I don't get it done, and this is where I do not have a job tomorrow.
This is the one.
But you just try to stay calm. And the engineer, after we got it all together and we got it up and running, literally 30 minutes before the deadline was cut off, he looks at me and he goes, man, you had me worried. He said, I didn't think you were going to make it. He goes, but you stayed calm. He said, so I believed you were going to make it. And I was like, well, that was the goal, but situations like that all the time. That's what a lot of people have trouble dealing with.
Is it the stress because it's got to get done and it's got to be right?
Yeah. Because the thing is in reality, if the stress got to you, you could just go home. You could just not complete the job, but you got to have that gear in you to not. We've had guys on our crew that said, hey, I just can't do anymore. I got to go. And and we understand it, but it's a dang fighter's mentality. When you get out there and you're in the middle of it, it's a strange feeling. And it's also a really cool feeling that when your guys are next to you, that everybody's doing everything they can. And it's just a really cool process.
It's cool to see too. Everybody kind of knows what's going on, because we kind of have a little powwow before the outage or anything like that. And I think, we do a lot of change outs because Orlando's a really big growing city. We have the biggest theme parks in the country, best hospitals, schools. I mean, we've got powerhouses, but it's the hospitality here, like the hotels, the theme parks and everything. Those are money-making machines.
Yep.
So when we go to do these change-outs, there's a time frame we have to hit. Otherwise, some people are going to lose a lot of money, so I think I'm sure other locals deal with that stuff in other parts of the country, but being Orlando and what it has to offer, it puts a different type of working environment that we deal with. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so we get into a lot of stuff, but because of where we're located and the type of work that we get into and the type of change-outs that we get into, it makes you really well-rounded, I think so.
Yeah, we used to have to do a bunch of shutdowns when I was with the ironworkers, and it was the same thing. You're out at the theme parks, you're working the theme parks, and they've got a guaranteed opening date by because they've already sold tickets. So at 9 a.m. on, whatever day this thing's supposed to be open, it needs to be up and running.
Yep.
And, so like the night before, it's all hands on deck, making sure all the punch-out items are done. They're running their safety checks. Like, everything's, you're getting all your tools cleaned up. But, you run into these situations where it's like, oh, damn, how are we going to do this?
Right.
And you just come together and you make a plan, you execute, and you get it done. And more often than not, everybody stays until the job's done. And so I've been on jobs before, like we're 12, 13 hours in.
Oh, yeah.
And, man, I was supposed to go home at 3:30. Yeah. Like, we're only supposed to do 8 today, and here we are 13, 14 hours later.
Yeah.
Like, I'm ready to go home.
Right.
But the work's not done, and we've got to hit this deadline.
Yeah.
And you find another gear.
You definitely do. And I think that's even though it's stressful, I think it's one of the coolest things because, like these huge theme parks or hotels or whatever, like we'll have the whole entire thing shut down. Mm-hmm. Like this place cannot operate, right? We have it totally cut into pieces. And so to think about that, like this place is going to open back up because of us. We're going to finish it. You know what I mean? We're going to get this done. And because we finished it, this place can open back up. You know what I mean? And so when you think of it like that, it does put a lot of pressure on you when you're doing the job, but it's cool after the fact that what you did and, how you accomplished it. And it's like, not a lot of people get to experience that, you know? And I know other people work other places and, they experience it different ways, but when you actually get to see what you did and maybe you're working on an effect, or maybe you're working on a main airline or water line or whatever it may be, but you are in control of this place being able to open or not. And I think that's cool because when we get it done, it's like, sweet, we did that.
You're making dreams come true.
We shut this whole place down and we turned it all back on and nobody even knew about it.
Yeah, and what's really crazy is when we go to these facilities, like sometimes there's individuals that they're there to open the building for us and they're there to monitor us. And then when we get there, they're like, okay, what do you want me to do?
That's the worst.
And like, you have to like
the door open, bud.
Right. Like, but you've got to find where shutoff valves are and like what this is and what that is. And like, you just assume that they knew. And like some of these people, they don't know anything. So I always tell our folks, it's like, you might as well consider what we do magic, because if they don't know how it works, you can just call it magic. So when we come in there, we wave the magic wand, and when we're done, it works. So that's all you need to know. Like it's it like Ronnie says, I was addicted to it. Like it was like that high. Like
it is.
When you worked a 18-hour shift and you're watching the sun come back up and you're picking up your tools and your feet are like pruned up because they've been wet all night.
Yeah.
And like you finish something, and then that maintenance guy comes in and he goes, "Man, y'all are done?" And we're like, yeah, we're going home. And like, it is the greatest feeling ever.
But you got to have safety built into that too, because a lot of times you're going in there, you're talking about boilers and coolers and chillers, and like there's pressure behind a lot of this stuff. So you can't just like shut off a valve and, start lacing into it with a cutoff wheel or, a torch or something like that. Like you've got to shut this stuff, drain it. Like especially at the theme parks, because they have pyrotechnics.
Oh, yeah.
That was, I used to do Catastrophe Canyon shutdowns all the time. You go in there and be like, we need to make sure that propane line is not only off, but empty. So you gotta purge that stuff out.
Yep. And that's what's cool about the hall is we learn all that. We learn the safety training, the protocols, everything that we need to do, we do, plumbing, soldering, brazing, welding, Victolic, groove, MJ, we do a lot of repairs, we do a lot of big jobs, and we do a lot of work that, like we've been talking about, that has to do with places that are making a whole lot of money. So it's important that we do it right, and we do it right the first time.
Yeah, we really try to stress at our apprenticeship program, back to kind of loop it and tie it all in, is that we try to make sure that they're touching the things that they're going to see and they're going to experience. And we try to mimic them the best we can. Obviously, it's a training type facility, but, everything from, the welders have one of those, I hate to, can't even think of what it's called, but it's where they, the restriction weld, where they actually have the pipes that are around
like
it.
a 6GR? A restriction plate?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They weld with that. Plus, we have fitters that are actually out there, like my 4th and 5th year fitters that are in a class. Basically, what I do is I give them a sketch, and it's up to them to figure out how to put it together. So because in the field, you get a lot of times you get told how you need to do something or whatever, and you don't get that opportunity actually to open up your mind and try to figure out by yourself, because you just don't have that time. So a lot of times you get coached through something. So it's nice to throw something at you and then give you no direction, because that's what we're really trying to develop here, is because I can teach anybody how to cut a piece of pipe this long, take off for 2 fittings, and put it back together. What we're really trying to teach, though, is that higher level thinking of these apprentices being able to come up with a thought and how to put something together with no direction, because that's essentially what we do.
That's a lot of what we do. Yeah, there's no, like going back to change outs, like new construction, you're going to have design, build, spec, prints, and everything. And like Jason said, he can teach people how to read prints and do all that. It may seem, complicated at first, but once you understand it, it's very simple. When you have to go do a change out and you have to take this pipe and tie it into that pipe, and you got to dodge all this stuff in between it.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have a time frame you have to hit. So you have to make your own drawings. You have to learn how to lay it all out, and you have to do it the fastest, most efficient, and safest way. That's what he's talking about, is that's how he's training our pipe fitters and all of our apprentices, really, is how to keep that edge of thinking of how are we going to get this done? Because it's up to us to figure it out. And the customers look to us, and once we do get it done, when we show back up, they're like, "Oh, these guys are badass. They know what they're doing." You know what I mean? So I think
it's a super difficult process, because, like I said, we do start with the very simple stuff, like, hey, cut a piece of pipe this long, put fittings on it, and so we do start with a very simple process. But what we try to do is we try to end up at the end where you are a higher level thinker, as opposed to just being able to read a set of drawings. You want to be able to go out there and adapt to a situation, and when there's little or no direction, and still be able to move forward. That's what the real challenge is, and that's what me and Ronnie have had that discussion several times, is when you finally see that light click on people, there's nothing that you can stop them from doing. They're going to learn. They're going to figure it out.
Oh, yeah.
Because we run into that all the time. Something that's not in a textbook. How are you going to get through this? And that's what we really try to get to. But like I said, we do start very basic. So hopefully the steps are there to get you to that point.
Oh, and they totally do. Like I've told you before, when I first started, 18 years old, knew nothing. Couldn't even read a tape measure. I could read the numbers, but the little lines in between, couldn't do it. Now, shoot, I'll pipe anything up. I can do it, and I can do it with confidence. And I say it with confidence, because guys like Jason and Local 803, the apprenticeship that I went through, it's tried and true. You know what I mean? Jason's done it. I've done it. Val's done it. Multiple people have done it. All the instructors. And like you said, they teach us here how to, develop a certain way of thinking and, that 1-2 mentality. And I think you're not going to get that anywhere else. No.
Do you guys have like the pipe fitters playground? Like, I haven't had a chance to tour your facility, but I know the one out in Tampa, they've got like this big area out back that's probably like
We're currently
massive size.
We had a structure that I didn't care for, and so we just tore it down. And so, matter of fact, that is what my apprentices are building right now. They have it's
even better.
So they're building. Like, I gave them a set of drawings, and they're just out there doing their thing. And then the nice thing is so that's something else that that a lot of these like programs miss on, that we're trying to hit on, is so our welding program, these folks not only learn how to weld in a booth, But when we have these structures outside, we bring them outside and they get the opportunity to weld on a weld-a-let or a slip-on flange, or like just stuff like that because what's weird is I've been out in the field and I've seen a guy that could pass a 2-inch monster wall coupon, and then you put him on a slip-on flange, just a regular 4-inch slip-on flange, and you could tell the look on their face. They're like, they'd never done it before, and it's like, I don't understand. Like, but it was because they learned how to weld in a booth and they hadn't had that field experience. And so we try to incorporate as much of that as possible in order to make it more real life. And then the other thing too that makes it nice is we have instructors like Ronnie and Steven, and they're the guys that they're actually working with in the field, these apprentices. And so it's so much like real life because the journeymen are still there. It's still the thing that they just get to touch more of the stuff and they get to do it on their own level. And it works out really well.
The whole thing of the apprenticeship though, is they get to learn, they get to work on the things that they learn about at school. You know what I mean? And so I think that's why the apprenticeship is great, because like Jason was saying, you might work with your instructors at work or not, but the point is the things you're doing in the field, you're also learning at school. So, the apprenticeship, I think it's a no-brainer. I always tell people that I got in, I knew nothing, did an apprenticeship, and now I think I could work anywhere, and I think that's a valuable thing to have, especially being in the trades, getting into the trades in general.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. This segment of the ARC Junkies podcast is brought to you by Everlast Welders. Are you looking to pick up your first machine? Maybe you're ready to upgrade from your machine you bought at the local big box store, or maybe you need a machine or a few machines for your small business. Well, check out Everlast Welders. They have a machine for every skill level, budget, and process you need to handle, even true multi-process machines like the Lightning MTS series. Check out the full list of power sources at everlastwelders.com and see which machine is right for you. And as always, if you buy any machine that comes with a stock foot pedal, get that free Nova foot pedal and TIG torch upgrade when you type in ARC Junkies in the comments section at checkout. Everlast Welders. Weld mean, weld green. Now let's get back to the show.
I think that's another cool thing too, is like your instructors, they're working in the field during the day.
Right.
And then they come in and train the apprentices at night. So, I mean, they have that actual experience, and they're getting, as technology evolves, as things on the job site change, as conditions, shift around, they're able to adapt that and implement it in the training like that night. They learn something new Wednesday afternoon, and then boom, it's like, oh, I got class in 3 hours. I'm going to make sure I bring this up because it's a relevant topic to everybody else.
Yep.
It's not like, when I was doing welding instruction, I did that for 6-7 years. Well, I'm still doing it now, but I don't have that connection to industry like I used to when I was on my tools.
Right.
So I'm not able to keep up with, the constant changes as well as somebody that's, doing it daily and then going, and teaching it at night.
Yeah, because you got your daily challenges. You know what I mean? And then, they have a curriculum here that they follow as well. But what you're saying, learn the instructors that are also working, they are experiencing things that you will only see in the field. And I always tell people that, that's another great point that I always bring up about an apprenticeship is you can go to a trade school and you're going to learn things in school, but when you learn things in the field, that's where the real
clicks.
Yeah, that's where the realness comes in, and I always tell my apprentice that, Tony, I'm like, I want you to do this because you're not going to learn this in school. This pipe right here that we're about to shut off and weld back together, the valves are probably going to be leaking by, and you still got to put a root in it. You're not going to learn that in school. You know what I mean? And the thing is, we got to put it back together. So having the real world experiences, like you said, that the instructors get to experience at work and then bring that into school. Okay, now we can, teach that. So I'm all for it.
And Jason, to your point, yes, that is one of the things that I encourage like my students to do is if you're on the job site and they encounter something that they didn't know what it was or didn't have the opportunity to ask a lot of questions about it, I'll tell them, hey, snap a picture, write a few notes down or something, bring it into class, and I'll try to help you walk through it, to totally understand. Sometimes I might even know the journeyman that they were working with, and I'll give them a call and I'll be like, hey, try to get a little bit more info on the situation, because ultimately what we want folks to be able to do is to run, when they run into things, to be able to identify what the problems are and to be able to get through the situations. And, and every situation is a little bit different. And so and like I said, and all the new technology that's coming out constantly, it's you see stuff, and sometimes they'll bring me pictures, and I'm like, man, I have not seen this, and I'll have to call and I'll have to figure out what it is. But that helps me grow as well as the students, and so it's a really cool. And we also and through our program, we'll usually try once a year to do a field trip because there's a couple universities around that'll let us tour their chiller plants and stuff, and it's all basically the systems that we work on, and we'll be able to have our students go through and do the tours, and they can identify the things that they've been learning about in school. So that all helps too.
So what else do you guys, what goes on in the apprenticeship program as far as like, just because everybody wants to, I want to weld, but
yeah, that's definitely a trend, I would say.
Yeah,
right now.
I want to weld.
Welding is trending.
And I would tell my students, like in my school, because I didn't know where they were going to go, whether it was, ironwork, pipe fitting, wherever they were going to go, manufacturing, fabrication, custom stuff.
I would always tell them, you're not just here to learn welding. I mean, yes, that's the main focus, but there's so much more to this industry than just the welding. So what else do you teach at the apprenticeship program aside from welding?
So what the program is so we start everybody with basic steps, and basic steps start as easy as like OSHA 30 with some safety training. And then, and then we teach them like some basic math. And then what we do is so the HVAC guys, they stay in an HVAC path. And then the plumbers and the pipe fitters, they stay in a similar path, and they learn some real basic skills together, like cutting and threading and soldering, because we want everybody, even if you're a welder, we got to get you to a certain level, because we don't want you to be, for lack of a better term, a one-trick pony. We want you to have the biggest toolbox possible of different things that you can do to make yourself as employable as possible. So we teach a lot of simple skills right up front, like like soldering and brazing and cutting and threading, and how to use a torch and some safety stuff, all in the beginning of the programs. And it's like basic math and basic formulas, because everybody needs to know how to do that. And then towards the end of their career, they become a little bit more specialized in, like, the welders will take 2 years of welding, the fitters will take 3 more years of straight line fitting, and then the plumbers will take 3 more years of straight line plumbing, which is more detailed oriented stuff to their trade. But so what it makes that really nice is that, so everybody gets that same base. It's kind of like when you're in the Marine Corps and they teach everybody to be an infantryman at the beginning, and then they go teach you
go
your
through
job.
your MOS. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So that's kind of like the model. And now what happens though, typically, or can happen, is, and this is what we're trying to break the trend of, is some folks get frustrated because when they come in, welding is awesome. Welding is awesome, and that's what they want to do.
It's great.
And they don't get to start welding immediately. And so some people get a little turned off, and we're just like, we try to get them to be patient, because we're like, look, it's going to pay off in the end, because we're trying to build the base before we just let it rip.
100%.
Yeah, you got to make sure the horse is in front of the cart.
Yeah,
Exactly. I think that's very important that's how we do it, because you got to know, like, for somebody like me that came in, I didn't know nothing. So if I got in and if they said, oh, you want to be a welder? Okay, we'll teach you how to weld. And all I did was weld. Okay, I'm super good at that. But then I go to a job and they're like, hey, measure this, do that. I'm like, dude, I don't know how to do none of that. Exactly.
Yeah, you don't find a job.
Yeah. No, and you don't want to go around saying I'm just a welder either.
That's kind of what I wanted to enforce with my students, because I didn't want to break a lot of hearts. I'm like, nobody's going to pay you to just go out there and make welds all day. You got to do stuff in between.
100%.
Cut, fit, fab, do takeoffs, figure things out.
Yes.
Critical thinking. You're not just going to go out there and sit on a bucket all day. Nobody's going to pay you to do that. And then, like, when you're not welding, what are you going to be doing? Waiting, drawing a paycheck till you can make the next weld? That's not going to happen.
That's what social media, nowadays, that's what it portrays.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's just, man, this guy's just welding. Look how nice that is. They got it made. They're just making welds. No. I promise you, they're not just making welds. And if they are, they're lucky few.
Yeah.
Really
you didn't see him buffing out all those parts and prepping 90 pieces before he got into all the welding.
Exactly. No, so I think it's great the way we run the operation here for the apprentices, because, like we were just talking about, we learn the basics and then we get specialized. And that makes you really good.
So now what happens, like, if you kind of identify, like, I'm going to do the HVAC program. Like, that's the, everybody goes through the same base knowledge, and then they kind of, you said, like, they break off in their own specialty areas. And they get through 2 years of HVAC training, and they're like, you know what? I really want to do that welding thing. can they go back through the apprenticeship program or like, kind of hit the reset button and go off on that other trajectory?
So the way we usually roll with it is we would encourage that individual to try to complete what they were in, the track they were in. But we would also, once you complete a track and you become a journeyman and you have journeyman status through us, all the other training programs are still open to you. So we have multiple folks that have went through one program and then they decided, oh, I want to go back through the other and take those specialty programs like the welding, or I wanted to come in and learn some plumbing, or like we had plumbers that learned how to, do all the plumbing stuff. And then next thing you know, they're like, oh yeah, I want to be an HVAC guy. And they go through the HVAC program. So all those programs are available to anybody in our local, and you can come back at any time. And then, we're hoping that eventually we get to the point where we're evolving our curriculum enough to where if there's new stuff that we're offering, maybe some of the folks that went through, say 10 years prior, if they missed something that's new, that they can drop back in. And if they want to take a course on something new, they're more than welcome to.
Well, plus one thing that I have noticed, and I think, let me know if I'm right or wrong, Jason, is that as an apprentice, we kind of got to do all the stuff nobody else wants to do, right? And so we might get put with a contractor that does mainly pipe fitting, and they might have an HVAC side to them, but let's just say they have a huge project going on that's short fitters. So you're an apprentice. Guess what? It don't matter if you're an HVAC apprentice, plumbing apprentice, or pipe fitting apprentice. They need help, so they're going to send you out there to help. So you might be on that job for a year or two, and you might be an HVAC apprentice learning HVAC at school, but you're doing pipe fitting in the field. So I know there's been times where you can ask to be transferred because what you know and what you're learning, you've learned more about fitting because you work 8 hours a day. You go to school for 3 hours a night, 2 nights a week. So in my mind, we're learning more at work through our apprenticeship than we are at school. Even though we do learn a lot at school, I'd say we learn most of it through our apprenticeship working. So basically, I think I've seen it happen where there's been either a plumbing apprentice that did mostly pipe fitting or an HVAC apprentice that did mostly pipe fitting. They say, hey, I want to be a pipe fitter now because this is what I've been doing. And they switch them, right?
Yeah, we will. We do have that ability to do that, to try, like Ronnie said. And to his point, you figure you got 2,000 hours on the job site every year. If you work a full year and you got 216 in a classroom, you tell me where you're going to learn more, And so it's hard to compete with those numbers. So if that does happen, and if we do get an apprentice that ends up kind of skewing off their path, we will try to readjust for them to make it work for them. It's not just a set in stone, hey, you got to finish. We will try to encourage them, but if like Ronnie said, they're working with a pipe fitter and they were supposed to be HVAC, well, maybe in year 3, we kind of give them a little bit of a swerve to try to help them and get them back on track and put him with the pipe fitters if that's what needs to be done, to get them through. So we try to be as flexible as possible because we want what's best for the apprentices and we want them to get through this with basic knowledge and be able to keep a job. So if that's what it takes, that's what we do.
Now, how long overall is the apprenticeship program?
It's 5 years. They start out, and we usually follow we're very similar to Orange County schools. So we start in the late August, and then we go till the end of May. And our apprentices go 2 nights a week, and they usually have the Christmas break off, Thanksgiving off, and then they have a summer break. So, and it's 2 nights a week for 3 hours each night.
So during those breaks, they're off from school, but not off from work.
That's correct. Yeah, you're working the whole time. You're working for a contractor full years, hopefully. As long as work holds out. And it has been pretty decent here lately.
I was going to say everything seems to be blowing up, especially with all the theme park expansions and everything else going on. You got all these different government contracts out on the coast. I mean, there's plenty of work to go around. I just did a week-long comprehensive class at my school, and one of the questions one of the students asked was, is there really a welder shortage? And I was like, there's a shortage, not just in welding, but carpentry and masonry and all these different, all these different skills. There is a labor shortage. So, I mean, everybody's dealing with it. Everybody seems to be hiring right now.
Yeah, on my computer right now, I got about I probably got 30 emails from locals around the country that, since we're in a little network, they put out like stuff that they need. And it's not uncommon to see locals put out saying that they got an outage coming up and we need 50 welders, and that's just one place. There'll be multiples that come out like that. And, some of those jobs are short-term jobs, but they're good paying jobs. And if you want to bounce a little bit, you can make some really good money doing that stuff.
And that's the cool thing is like, if I wanted to go work somewhere else, it's not like I have to fill out a job application or a resume. I just tell Jason, or he tells me there's work here or whatever. And, I might got to take a weld test and a drug test, but that's it, And I think that is a really good, benefit or tool to have in your pocket is that network that he's talking about through the UA is having access to jobs all over the country, know what they're paying, know what they're working on. And then on top of that, if I don't have that cert to get there, I can get it here and then I can go work out there, so it's a huge web of connections, through contractors and other union halls. And, it's a huge benefit when I hear people that are non-union, what they have to go through to get another job. If they don't personally know the contractor or somebody to get them there, it's hard to move. But through Jason's job, the business agent, and through other business agents at other halls, they're all connected. So they hit each other up and they say, hey, man, I need this or I need that. And then it's easy to move around and work where you want to work.
Yeah. And really the nice thing is you get information straight from the source. Because, if you've ever been on the road or, you talk to a road guy, they're always like, oh, yeah, I hear there's work in such and such. Well, is there really work there? Or like, what's the deal? Yeah. Like, are they working overtime? Are they not? Are they paying per diem? So we have a person that we can call in another local and get that information directly. And they'll tell us exactly what it is and what's going on. And a lot of times they'll preset you up a job before you even get there. So literally you're just showing up, you go to the hall, you get your referral from that hall, and then they give you the directions to the job site and you go to work. And like and it's that simple. And so the other nice thing is through our network and how just to kind of pull the curtain back a little bit, the other benefit, and this is one of the biggest things that's going around that's tough, is a lot of folks that work these short-term outages and chase the money around the country, they have trouble keeping insurance because you're working for so many different contractors. Well, the nice thing about being in the local is that your insurance comes from the local. And so the money gets reciprocated back here from no matter where you work in the country. And so your insurance stays the same. Your retirement stays the same. Nothing gets messed with. So you can work for 10 different contractors in a year and you could still have insurance. You can still have the same retirement. Whereas, some of the non-union folks that are moving around, they typically don't get to have it, or they're working off something that's really expensive because there's Cobra or something because they can't keep it because they're moving.
Yeah, it's not transferable. Your 401k doesn't move over from one company to the next. You got to be vested and all that stuff.
Yeah, and it makes it really tough. And so that's where they end. They can typically make a little bit more on the front end, but on the back end, our folks tend to do a little bit better because they're set up better for like the retirement and down the road, whereas, like I said, and the money, yeah, sure, everybody needs extra money on their check, our guys do too, but that's one of the big perks, with the traveling and stuff like that.
So now what type of experience do you have to come into the apprenticeship program?
A GED or high school diploma. Like that's, and a driver's license.
That helps.
18 years old too, right?
Yeah, you got to be 18 years old. But yeah, like we take all types. It doesn't matter as long as.
So I don't have to have prior experience. I don't have to like full-fledged resume and all that. I mean,
nope.
No, and that's the craziest thing is, a lot of people don't even know about Local 803. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to be on this podcast and bring Jason on here is because it's such I wouldn't say simple, but it's I'm going to say simple. It's a very simple method to get into the trades and to start a career, whether you know about it or not, because they offer an apprenticeship.
But you didn't ask me the most important thing, Jason.
What's the most important thing, Jason?
How much does it cost, Ronnie?
I'm pretty sure it's $193 total.
It's $191 when you pay your initiation fee, your first month's due, and 1 month's death benefits.
So when you talk about the pricing to get into a trade school, technically, but through the union, I mean, it's like it's a no-brainer. And I don't know if people in the Orlando or Central Florida area don't know about it, but it's like I want them to know about it because the success that I've had, the success that Jason's had, and I've told you before, I make a lot more money than all my friends that went to college. And, I'm only 28 years old now, but the apprenticeship taught me everything that I know. And like Jason said, it was only $191. It completely changed my life. No student debt. No, it's just 190. I made that back in the first week I worked. You know what I mean? So I think it's a no-brainer. I've told you before, I think that apprenticeship is a no-brainer. And, yeah.
Like I said, it's a simple process too. So literally you can come down, you can put in an application. We don't take any money from you unless you get accepted into the program, because we do have a little bit of a interview process. So basically you come in, you put in an application. After you put that application in, then it goes into a file, and then we have kind of an application process where they come in and they interview. And because we only have so many slots. And then basically what we do is we interview. Through the interview process, we pick the top 15 or whatever it ends up being that year of each program. And then you contact those students and say, hey, you've been accepted. And literally in August, you start school. And they don't even ask any money from you once you start school, because you have a year to pay that initiation. So you have a year to pay that $191. So it's not like you got to have it like right when you walk in the door. Typically, the reason why we do that is because we'd like to bring them into the program, get them started, and hopefully get them with a contractor so they get to working, so they can actually get some money in their pocket before we start asking for money from them. So they can see that they're tangibly getting something for what they're doing.
Yeah, it's not a bad price either. I think I paid almost twice that for my book.
Really?
Yeah, because I think once you get in, you get put to work. I think after 6 months, I think you buy the first half of your book, and then right shortly after that, I think it might be another 6 months after that, you buy the second half of your book. So it's broken up into 2 payments, and then I think our dues were like $30, $50 a month. But that's another thing, because everybody wants to harp on. It's like, oh, why would I want to pay somebody to work? How much? What are your dues per month?
$31.
Okay, yeah, you're not really breaking the bank there.
No, and we also have another nice feature, the $10 that's part of one of your initial payments. It's a death benefit. And basically what we do is anybody that comes in the door that becomes a union member, you fill out a benefit card. And so if I were to pass away, what they do is they take $10 from every member that's current in the local, and they write a check with that $10. The union doesn't take any of that money, and they send it straight to your beneficiary to pay for, your burial expenses and stuff. So at any given time, we have roughly about 500 members that would fall under that category. So literally it's close to like a $5,000 check that gets collected and gets sent out to the members next of kin to help pay for stuff like that. So there's little perks like that. Plus, we have a really nice picnic once a year for our members that it's pretty off the chain good. So
no, it's definitely like fit. It's very it's very kind of family oriented, but just like anything, if you want it to be, it's not something that, you can work through the local and you can not come to the meetings. We don't, promote that. You should come to the meetings and stuff like that, but it's not like it's not like we're down, people are down your throat all the time of come do this or do that. You need to do this or do that. It's still a very open atmosphere. It's just, you have that brotherhood. And like you said, you're taken care of over that umbrella of insurance and pension, no matter where you work and anything like that. But, like you said, for how to get in, I think that's for either very little experience or no experience, because if you have a lot of experience, you can join too, right, Jason?
Oh yeah, because that's the other thing that's really nice is so we take in applications all the time for people that want to make membership. And basically the way we work it is, I'll take in an application and I'll hold it, and I don't take any money from you, and I'll hold that application, and then as long as my contractors are looking for people, I'll call around to the different contractors, and I'll try to get that person that came in the door, I'll try to get them placed with one of my contractors. And then once I get them placed with one of my contractors, then I'll say, okay, you need to make membership. But now he's getting something, or that person is getting something for the money they're giving me. So they know that I'm not just taking their money, sitting on their application, and don't care nothing about them. Like, I'm actively trying to get them a work. And then once they make membership, they're a full-fledged member. They have access. Like, so if maybe they are a one-trick pony, because I get a lot of guys that come in here, they want to pass a weld test and go on the road. And I tell them, yep, you can do that. But I said, but if you want to work in the home local, you're going to have to learn some other skills, and you're more than welcome to come to any classes. And they do. Some of them, they'll sit in these classes and they'll take 2 or 3 years of fitting classes in order to get themselves where they need to be. And now they can work anywhere as opposed to just doing one job. And so we try to make everybody as well-rounded, even people that we bring in, off the street.
Because we could bring in people too that have experience, whether it be in pipe fitting, plumbing, or HVAC, and they can come in as a provisional journeyman, right? Where you put them to work, and us guys in the field kind of dictate whether they're worth it or not. So that's kind of cool. You're not going to get that at other places where, Jason brings a non-union guy in, and if we think he's good and, test him out for 2 weeks, we tell Jason, yeah, he's good. And if we don't like him, we're like, nah, we don't like him. Or if he's okay, we're like, yeah, he's okay. And then Jason might start him in a 3rd year, 4th year apprenticeship class. Or like you said, if he is good, he can just become a journeyman, right?
Yeah, we try to make it as flexible as possible. So we try to find different avenues. It's not just a one size fits all. So when you come in the door, we got the flexibility to try to find a spot for you. So it's not just like, oh, you got to be a know nothing apprentice, or oh, you got to be a journeyman. Like, there's tweener spots too, and so it's not all locals are that way, but we try to be as flexible as we can because we realize what the job market's like, and we're trying to make everybody feel like they're included in, because we're not just some elitist group. We want everybody to be part of us. We want everybody to have the same benefits, the same jobs, like the same good pay, the same retirement. I want that for everyone. I want everybody to be able to retire. I don't want to look at people like, no offense, but I love my mom to death, but she's living on Social Security. Social Security. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of Americans that are like that. And so we just want that for everybody. And so that's one of the biggest things is I just want to know that our local cares about people, and that so when you come in that door, you're going to get service.
Now, that was going to be my next question, was retirement, because Ronnie, you came in at 18.
I know.
Like, how many years do you have to put in before you can start drawing retirement? Because unfortunately for us, I think my parents' generation is probably the last one that's going to be able to, take in Social Security. And I've paid into that since I was 15. Like, I had a job at age 15. I've been paying into that allotment that I'm supposed to get once I hit retirement age. It's not going to be there.
Right.
And my parents' generation, not a lot of them had jobs where they had good retirement. So they're relying on that. So this generation and the generations that come after us, we've got to come up with a retirement plan. So what's that look like through the union? How many years do I have to put in, and what can I expect as far as a retirement package?
Okay, so the way the retirement packages work is based on man hours worked per year. So that's a little bit of a complicated thing, but I can tell you this, is that you got to put in at least 10 years, and you got to be at least 55 to retire. Now, when you retire at 55 as opposed to 62, there are you do take hits before that, because obviously you're going to live a lot longer when you retire at 55, and so you're going to be drawing on your pension a lot longer. So there are hits that you do take. But if you retire at 62, you're going to retire with a full boat. Like, you're not losing anything. And this is something else that I will tell you is that most members that have retired in the last 5 or 6 years that I've talked to, if they've got 30 to 35 years in the local and they retire at 62, they're almost making really close to what they were making working. Retired.
Yeah, I know that's
to sit at home.
Yeah, I know my grandfather retired from here, from Local 803, and he says he actually makes more than he made working. He makes more retired, and so that's what really got me into the local. But, great retirement plan, great pension, great benefits. And like I said, it's all accessible here, at the cost of $191.
Yeah.
And you can like bump your retirement up too. Like, I don't know how it works with that's kind of leading into my next question. I know when I was with the ironworkers, they have retirement credits. So and that's based off a year's worth of work. Well, I never worked less than a year over the course of 9 months. I mean, like, we were doing so much overtime, I could get, like 1.25 credits. Or 1.5, 1 3/4 credits because the overtime that I was experiencing.
They just changed it through the local. Now there's no cap. So you can gain, it's just depending on how much you work, but most people are going to gain on a typical year, they're going to gain about 1.25 credits. So, and that's on a standard year working, say 2,100, 2,200 hours, with a little bit of overtime, that kind of stuff. So it's not hard to hit those numbers because they're hitting them pretty consistent. And so you'll gain about 1.25 credits, and then your retirement is based on those credit hours. So just to show you kind of how it works is explain it a little bit. Say you earned 1 credit hour and it was worth $10 and you earned that for 10 years. Well, over a 10-year period, that's 10 credits at $10 a piece. They literally take 10 and multiply it by the $10 of each credit. And then, so that's $100, and that's what you'd get a month. Now, our credits now are somewhere, because we're involved in a local and a national pension. And I think right now they're very close to $65 a piece.
Okay. So 65 times however many credits you have when you retire. Once you hit 62, you get 100% of that, whatever that number is.
Right, but now 65 a piece. So say you had 10 years, that's 650, and then doubled that because one's local, one's national. So it'd be like $1,300 a month.
Oh, damn. Okay. Yeah, I mean that's some pretty good pocket cotton right there.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, and like I said, and then the nice thing is that it just comes in the mail, like, and then here's the other, with the way our pensions are set up, that makes it really nice is there is, when you go to draw your pension, and you can set up your pension to where you can take a deduction on it. So they have what they call a 75-25 split. And basically what that means is whenever I file my pensions, I'm going to get 75% of my pension. But what it does is it locks it in for your spouse. So if you were to pass away, that spouse is still going to get 75%. That's why you take the hit. That's why so they don't have to do without if they're without you. So you can take care of them even after you're gone. And so that's a really nice thing to know that your loved one is going to be taken care of even after you're gone.
It's definitely an added benefit. My wife reminds me all the time that she's going to live longer than I am.
Yeah, no, mine too. Like that. So she knows all these rules.
Yeah, she's got them written down. She's got all the phone numbers to call.
That's funny, man.
No, man. So, like, if anybody's interested, and they don't have to be a resident of Central Florida, but if anybody's interested in joining up with, 803, how do they go about doing that? You guys got a website, Instagram, anything like that? Call Ronnie. You want me to put your personal number out here?
Yeah. So I mean, no. Don't call me.
Okay.
Call Jason. If anything.
There you go.
I mean, I run their local 803 Instagram page through social media. All the contact information is in the bio for the hall, right? And then it takes them to the website, whether you want to fill out an application to become an apprentice. And there's also a number there. If you have experience, you want to talk to the hall, you want to join, that number is there too. So we're trying to get the word out there, even through this podcast, through other ways, we're going to schools and stuff like that. But yeah, you can be out of state, but you got to come here to go to class, and that's one thing that the apprentices have to do. Even though, like Jason said, you're learning a lot on the job, our apprentices have to come to school 3 hours a night, 2 times a week. Yep. They're required a certain amount of hours to turn out as a journeyman, whether it be a pipe fitter, plumber, or HVAC hand. You require a certain amount of class time hours. So you might want to move here to Orlando, Florida, to go to local 803 because it's easier to get into as opposed to get into like local 1 in New York. You know what I mean? It's just because that's a really, really big local. Mm-hmm. So the benefit to here is we're not a huge local. It's easier to get into, and you can still become part of that web. And you want to go back to working local 1, you can. You know what I mean? But you can come here to get started, to learn, and I think it's a great way to get in, as far as, anywhere else.
Get your foot in the door, get through the apprenticeship program,
Definitely.
and all that stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah, and when you click on the stuff for Instagram and it's got our numbers on there, literally that makes you call the front office here and you can just ask for me, Jason Strickland, and they will put you right through to me and I'll explain all this stuff in depth. Like there's not a day that doesn't go by that somebody doesn't call, and I will make sure I try to go out of my way to spend 20, 30 minutes with folks on the phone to try to make sure that they totally understand and I answer all their questions, because we want them to know what they're getting into and what we have to offer. And I just tell them what we have to offer, and that's it. I don't make any promises that we can't keep.
Well, awesome. Gents, I appreciate you guys having me out here to your house, man. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for coming,
Yeah, that's
Jason,
awesome.
man. Thanks for doing this. I like hanging out with you. I remember last time we hung out, we did a podcast at your house, and I see you doing great things. And now I'm teamed up with Local 803. It's been a member for the past 10 years, and I really want to help grow this local and show everybody what it has to offer because of what it's done for me, and what it's done for Jason and all the other members. Like Jason was saying, we want everybody to get in on it. We care about the people. We care about the trade. We care about, the younger generation. And we want to build. We want to grow. We want to expand Local 803.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I said, it's been really awesome. I appreciate it.
Well, great. Anytime, man.
All right, ladies and gents, thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode. Chatting with Jason and Ronnie was a blast, and I hope you all enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. For more information on Local 803, you can reach out to them on Instagram at local_803. And tune in this week for an all-new episode of Weld Wednesdays with AWS. This month's guests are Ashley Applegate and Bobby Pease from KWI. I hope you all have a great rest of your week. Stay safe out there, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.